Nice. Time is the only resource in your life that you can never replenish. You can lose money and make it back. You can lose a job and get a new one. You can lose almost anything and eventually find a way to rebuild it. But once time is gone, it's gone forever. Every day, every hour, every second is slipping through your fingers. The tragedy is that most people live as though they have an endless supply of it, as if they're going to wake up tomorrow with the guarantee of decades ahead. But the truth is, guys, none of us know how much time we have. That uncertainty should light a fire inside you. It should make you realize that wasting time is one of the most dangerous habits you can ever allow yourself to fall into. Think about the hours you've already lost in hesitation. Scrolling endlessly, second-guessing yourself, or putting off decisions because it didn't feel like the right moment. Those moments didn't just vanish into thin air, they became part of your past, a past that you can't rewrite. And if you keep repeating that cycle, you'll wake up one day realizing you've let years slip by while your dreams collected dust. That realization crushes more people than failure ever will, because failure at least gives you something to learn from. Nice. Wasted time gives you nothing but regret. What stops people from respecting their time is the illusion that they have more of it. They say, I'll start tomorrow. They convince themselves, I've got plenty of time. But how many times have you told yourself tomorrow would be the day, and tomorrow never came? That's the trap. Tomorrow becomes next week becomes next year, and suddenly you've spent a decade circling the same mountain. Nice, carrying the same excuses, wondering why nothing has changed. Nothing changes until you treat your time like the currency it is. You spend money carefully because you know it's limited. Imagine if you treated your hours with the same intensity. Nice. Imagine if you stopped wasting time like you had an infinite supply. You've got to understand something. Life is urgent. Not in the sense that you should live in panic, but in the sense that every moment has weight. Every moment matters. The question is, nice, how are you investing those moments? Are you spending them on activities that move you closer to the life you want, or are you handing them away to distractions, to fear, to things that will never matter 5 years from now? Nice, because here's the truth. You can't complain about the results you don't have if you're not willing to give your time to the things that create them. Too many people spend more time consuming other people's lives on a screen than creating their own. Nice, they spend more time making excuses than making moves. They spend more time doubting themselves than daring to take action. And that's why their dreams stay stuck in their imagination. Now, let's be honest. It's not that you don't have time. It's that you don't prioritize it. Everybody says, I don't have time. You do have time. You just choose to allocate it in ways that don't serve you. You have time for Netflix, for scrolling, for distractions, but not for your vision. Nice. That's not a time problem. That's a choice problem. And once you take ownership of that, everything changes. The moment you stop treating time like something you can casually waste and start treating it like the most valuable possession you have, as you shift into a completely different level of power, because then every choice you make has meaning. Every yes and every no has weight. But there's another layer to this. Wasting time doesn't just rob you of progress. It conditions you. Nice, it conditions you to accept a life of mediocrity. Every time you say, I'll do it later, you reinforce a pattern. You train your brain that it's okay to delay your dreams, that it's okay to procrastinate on the things that matter most. And over time, nice, that becomes who you are. Someone who waits, someone who hesitates, someone who watches life pass by instead of seizing it. That's why urgency isn't just about productivity. It's about identity. It's about becoming someone who acts, someone who decides. Nice, someone who refuses to waste their life waiting for a perfect moment that will never arrive. You've got to reclaim your time. That means setting boundaries, cutting out distractions, and being ruthless about what you give your energy to. Nice, because not everything deserves your time. Not every person, not every problem, not every thought deserves a piece of your life. And the truth is, most of the things that drain you aren't even aligned with your true goals. You waste hours worrying about things that won't even matter next month. You waste energy on relationships, arguments, and habits that don't add an ounce of value to who you want to become. You have to ask yourself, is this worth my life? Nice, because when you give your time to something, that's exactly what you're doing. You're giving your life to it. You're trading away pieces of your existence for it. So if it doesn't move you closer to who you want to be, it's not worth it. People love to talk about success, about achieving greatness, about living their dreams, but success isn't built on talent alone. It's built on how you use your time. Nice. You want to know the difference between someone who lives an extraordinary life and someone who doesn't. It's not intelligence. It's not luck. It's that one person decided to stop wasting time and start investing it. While most people were hesitating, nice, they were acting. While most people were watching, they were building. While most people were talking, they were doing. That's the only difference. Nice, you don't need to be extraordinary to live an extraordinary life. You just need to stop wasting the one resource everyone has equally. Because here's the great paradox. Nice, the poorest person in the world and the wealthiest person in the world both wake up with the same 24 hours. The difference is how they use it. Now, don't misunderstand this. I'm not saying you should never rest. Nice, that every second must be filled with grinding and working. Rest is not wasting time. It's investing in your energy, your clarity, your health. Wasting time is different. Wasting time is living in indecision, in distractions, nice, in mindless activities that don't replenish you or move you forward. Wasting time is letting life pass while you're too busy avoiding discomfort to do the things that matter. You'll never look back at your life and regret the moments you invested in growth. as in action, in love, in contribution. But you will regret the countless hours you handed away to meaningless distractions, to fear, to hesitation. That's the regret that eats people alive at the end of their lives. And if you want to avoid it, guys, the time to wake up is now. The moment you take back your time, your entire world changes. You feel more alive because you're no longer drifting, you're directing. You're no longer letting life happen to you, you're making it happen. And that sense of purpose, guys, that sense of urgency, that sense of progress ignites something inside you that nothing else can. Because deep down, we were all created to grow, to contribute, to create. And you can't do any of that if you're wasting the very thing that allows you to make it real. So here's the challenge. Stop treating time like it's disposable. Start treating it like the precious, irreplaceable resource it is. Every day you wake up is a gift. Every hour is an opportunity. Guys, every decision is a chance to move closer to the life you want or further away from it. Don't wait for another year, another season, another excuse. Don't wait until you feel ready, because that day will never come. Stop wasting time and decide now. Guys, because if you don't, life will decide for you. And the price of waiting is always regret. So the choice is yours. Waste your life waiting or start living it now. Failure, just the word alone makes most people shrink back. Guys, it's a word we've been conditioned to fear since we were kids. In school, failure meant a red mark on your paper. At home, failure might have meant disappointment in your parents' eyes. In the world, failure often carries a label, a stigma, guys, like it defines who you are. And because of that, most people spend their entire lives running from failure, doing everything they can to avoid it, to hide from it, to pretend it never happened. But here's the truth. Failure is not the opposite of success. Guys, failure is part of success. It's the raw material from which success is built. Every single breakthrough, every achievement, every great story of transformation was born out of a pile of failures that someone refused to let define them. Guys, you have to shift your relationship with failure. Stop treating it like a death sentence and start treating it like feedback. That's all failure is. Feedback. It's life showing you what doesn't work so you can discover what does. When a baby is learning to walk, guys, do they fall? Of course they do. They fall over and over again. They stumble, they wobble, they crash down hard. But do they quit? No, because failure doesn't mean finality to them. It's not even on their radar. They don't say, well, guys, I guess walking isn't for me. They don't let that fall define them. They just get back up, adjust, and try again. That's how they learn. That's how we all learn. Somewhere along the way, though, we grow up and start attaching meaning to failure. We start to believe that if we fail, it must mean we're not good enough, not smart enough, not worthy enough. And that belief paralyzes us. It makes us play small. It makes us stop trying. But the only thing failure actually means is that you're in the game. Guys, you're taking action, you're moving forward. Think about it. The most successful people in any field didn't arrive there by avoiding failure. They got there by failing more than everyone else. They were willing to test, to risk, to experiment, to push, to fall flat on their face and still get up the next day and go again. Every invention, every business, every performance, every transformation you admire was shaped by failure. The light bulb wasn't invented on the first tray. Guys, the greatest athletes in the world have missed more shots than they've made. The people who inspire you the most have stories filled with rejection, embarrassment, and moments where everything seemed to collapse. But they understood that failure was a stepping stone. It's not a dead end. And because they embraced that, they discovered strength, strategies, and resilience they never would have found if everything had gone smoothly. The problem is that most people are so terrified of failing that they never even start. They think, what if I try and it doesn't work? But the better question is, what if I never try and I spend my life wondering what could have been? Failure hurts in the moment, yes. It stings. It bruises your ego. It makes you question yourself. But regret, regret is far worse. Regret is the pain of knowing you had a chance and didn't take it. And unlike failure, which you can learn from and recover from, regret lingers. Regret eats at you. Regret is permanent. That's why you've got to be willing to risk failure. Guys, you've got to be willing to take that shot, to step into the unknown, to try even when you're not sure of the outcome. Because the only way you can guarantee you'll never succeed is by refusing to try in the first place. Failure is a teacher. Guys, it teaches you resilience. It teaches you patience. It teaches you creativity. When you fail, you're forced to look for new solutions, to adapt, to reinvent yourself. Without failure, you'd never stretch beyond what's comfortable. Without failure, you'd never grow. Think about the times in your life when you were forced to rise, to dig deep, to push beyond what you thought you could handle. Weren't those the moments that shaped you the most? Weren't those the moments that built character, strength, and wisdom? It wasn't when everything was easy. It was when you fell, when you struggled, when you thought you couldn't go on but did anyway. That's the gift of failure. It shapes you into someone capable of handling success. But here's the trap. Guys, most people don't see failure as feedback because they attach their identity to it. They say, I failed, so I am a failure. That's the lie. Failing at something doesn't mean you are a failure. It means you tried something and learned what didn't work. That's all. Your worth doesn't decrease just because something didn't go the way you planned. You are not your results. You are not your circumstances. You are not your mistakes. You are the one who has the power to interpret them, to decide what they mean. To use them as fuel instead of shackles. The moment you separate your identity from your outcomes, you take back your power. Because then failure no longer defines you, it refines you. And there's something else. Failure has a way of revealing what you truly want. If you're willing to keep going after falling flat, if you're willing to keep pursuing the dream after rejection, if you're willing to keep grinding after the setbacks, that's when you know you're on the right path. Because if failure can't stop you, nothing can. Most people give up too soon. They hit resistance, they hit rejection, they hit a wall, and they walk away. But the ones who break through are the ones who see that wall as part of the process, not the end of the road. They realize that every no brings them closer to a wise. Every closed door forces them to knock harder or build a new door altogether. That's the difference. Not talent, not luck, persistence in the face of failure. So you've got to train yourself to lean into failure instead of running from it. When you fall, ask yourself, what is this teaching me? What can I learn? What can I do differently? That's how you turn failure into fuel. That's how you make it work for you instead of against you. And here's the beauty of it. The more you fail, the less scary it becomes. You start to see it for what it really is. A stepping stone, a sign you're in motion. It's proof that you're playing at a level where growth is possible. Failure only has power over you when you give it meaning it doesn't deserve. Strip it of that meaning and it becomes just another step on the path. I want you to imagine your future self looking back on today. Imagine them thanking you for the times you failed but didn't quit, for the times you kept going when it would have been easier to stop, for the times you treated failure as feedback and kept moving forward. Because every time you do that, you're building momentum. You're stacking resilience. You're getting closer to your breakthrough. Success doesn't come from avoiding failure. It comes from mastering it. It comes from refusing to let it define you. From using it as leverage to rise higher. Failure is not the enemy. Fear of failure is, because fear will paralyze you. Fear will keep you stuck. Fear will make you live small. But when you see failure as feedback, fear loses its grip on you. You become unstoppable. So the next time you fall short, don't shrink back. Don't let it label you. Don't let it stop you. Look at it, learn from it, use it, and keep moving. Because failure is not the end of the road. It's a detour pointing you to the right one. It's not the final word, it's the first draft. And if you're willing to embrace it, to see it as feedback, there's nothing in your life you can't break through. The only true failure is giving up. Everything else is progress. So stop fearing failure, and start using it, because the more you fail forward, the faster you'll rise. Discipline is the bridge between where you are right now and where you want to be. Everybody talks about wanting success, about wanting to change their lives. It's about wanting to achieve greatness, but most people stop at wanting. They stop at wishing. They stop at talking. The only people who actually cross that bridge are the ones who develop the discipline to keep moving when the excitement wears off. Because let's be real, motivation comes and goes. Inspiration feels good in the moment, but it fades. Discipline is what carries you through when you don't feel like showing up. Discipline is what makes the difference between someone who dreams and someone who lives their dream. We live in a world where people are addicted to comfort. They want the reward without the sacrifice. They want the destination without the journey. They want the body without the workout, the wealth without the hustle, the breakthrough without the breakdown. But life doesn't work like that. Life demands a price, and that price is discipline. Discipline means you choose long-term gain over short-term gratification. Discipline means you do what you said you would do long after the mood you said it and has disappeared. Discipline means you stop negotiating with your excuses. And that's where most people fall short. They let their feelings dictate their actions. But if you want real change, you've got to reverse that. You let your commitments dictate your actions, and your feelings will eventually fall in line. Think about it. How many times have you set a goal, felt fired up, maybe even told yourself, this time I'm serious, only to give up days later when the work felt boring, when it wasn't fun anymore, when the results didn't come fast enough? That's the test. That's where discipline comes in. Success is not about doing the big, exciting things once in a while. It's about doing the small, consistent things every single day, especially when they're not exciting. Discipline is showing up to the gym when you'd rather stay in bed. Discipline is working on your vision when nobody is watching. When nobody is applauding, when there's no guarantee of success yet. Discipline is saying no to distractions, no to temptation, no to the easy path, because you've already said yes to something greater. And here's the truth. Without discipline, time becomes your enemy. You can have all the time in the world, but if you don't discipline yourself to use it wisely, it slips through your hands. Remember, time is a currency, but discipline is how you spend it. Discipline multiplies the value of your time. With discipline, one focused hour can create more progress than 10 distracted ones. With discipline, you stop wasting your days on things that don't matter and start investing them in the actions that move the needle forward. Discipline is how you convert time into results. But don't mistake discipline for punishment. Too many people hear the word and think it means living a rigid, joyless life. That's not discipline, that's deprivation. True discipline is freedom. It's freedom from regret, freedom from wasted potential, freedom from living a life beneath your capabilities. Discipline doesn't take away your joy, it gives you more of it because it allows you to build a life you're proud of. Think about it. There's nothing more painful than looking back and realizing you could have been more, done more, achieved more, if only you had been disciplined enough to follow through. And there's nothing more fulfilling than looking in the mirror and knowing you kept your word to yourself. Discipline builds self-respect. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you strengthen your identity as someone who follows through. That identity becomes power because once you see yourself as disciplined, as committed, as consistent, you act in alignment with it. You stop asking, can I? And start declaring, I will now. Discipline doesn't mean perfection. You're going to slip. Nice, you're going to have days where you miss the mark. That's part of being human. But discipline is not about never failing. It's about never quitting. It's about getting back on track faster each time you fall. It's about making progress over perfection. Nice. Too many people give up because they stumble once and think that means it's over. No. Discipline means you recognize the stumble, you learn from it, and you get right back up. The gap between failure and success is not perfection. It's persistence. The challenge is that discipline requires discomfort. And most people spend their lives avoiding discomfort. They choose the path of least resistance, the shortcut, the quick fix. But discomfort is not the enemy. It's the signal that growth is happening. Nice. Discipline teaches you to embrace the discomfort, to lean into it, to understand that the very thing you're avoiding is often the key to your breakthrough. Every time you push through resistance, you strengthen yourself. Nice. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, you build resilience. And resilience is the foundation of success. Look at any area of your life where you feel proud, where you've achieved something meaningful. I guarantee discipline was the driving force behind it. Nice. Whether it was in your health, your career, your relationships, your personal growth, it was discipline that carried you through the times when motivation faded, when obstacles showed up, when the results weren't immediate. Success doesn't happen overnight. Nice. But failure dies when you stop being disciplined. That's the harsh truth. And that's why discipline is not optional if you want to create a life of impact. It's non-negotiable. You have to create rituals and routines that align with the person you want to become. You can't just rely on willpower. Willpower is limited. Discipline comes from designing your environment, setting up structures, surrounding yourself with accountability, creating habits that make success inevitable. You want to write that book. I set aside time every day and write, even if it's just a page. You want to get in shape, commit to moving your body daily, no matter how small the workout. You want to build wealth. Discipline yourself to save, to invest, to learn about money consistently. Now, it's not about massive leaps. It's about steady, disciplined steps. Small, consistent actions compounded over time create extraordinary results. That's the bridge. That's how you cross from where you are to where you want to be. Nice. And the beautiful thing about discipline is that once you develop it in one area, it spills into others. The discipline you build in your health strengthens your discipline in your business. The discipline you practice in your business strengthens your discipline in your relationships. It's all connected. Every act of discipline reinforces the identity of a person who follows through. And the more you strengthen that identity, the easier it becomes to act in alignment with it. Discipline is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. So stop waiting for motivation. Stop waiting to feel like it. Stop waiting for the perfect conditions. That's not how life works. You don't rise to the level of your feelings. You rise to the level of your discipline. And the moment you decide to discipline yourself to take consistent action, regardless of how you feel, you separate yourself from the crowd, because most people won't do it. Most people will stay stuck in cycles of excuses, waiting for inspiration that never lasts, but not you. You can choose differently. You can choose to be the person who honors your commitments, who follows through, who refuses to waste time and energy on distractions. You can choose to be disciplined. And when you do, you'll find yourself crossing that bridge, moving closer and closer to the life you know you're meant to live. So stop negotiating with yourself. Stop waiting for the right mood. Stop giving into your excuses. Build the discipline to act regardless, and you'll discover the freedom, the power, and the success that only discipline can give you. Breakthrough doesn't happen by chance. It doesn't come to those who sit back, wait for the stars to align. And hope life will one day hand them the future they dream about. Breakthrough comes to those who act with urgency, who refuse to wait for the perfect conditions, who push forward relentlessly no matter how imperfect the circumstances may seem. Because here's the truth, there is no perfect time. There is no magical moment where everything lines up and suddenly you're ready. Waiting for that is just another form of wasting your life. The perfect time is the moment you decide to act. The breakthrough begins when you stop waiting and start moving. Urgency is power. Urgency creates momentum. When you carry yourself with urgency, you move differently. You stop overthinking. You stop procrastinating. You stop giving space to fear. Instead, as you direct your energy into action, and action creates clarity. Too many people sit around waiting to figure things out before they start, but clarity doesn't come from sitting. It comes from doing. Every step you take teaches you something. Every move you make brings you closer to your breakthrough, but none of that can happen if you stay stuck in hesitation. Now let's talk about relentless action, because urgency by itself is not enough. You can get fired up for a day or two, even a week. But if you can't sustain it, if you can't keep moving when the fire cools, you'll stall out. Relentless action means you don't just act once. You keep acting, you keep pushing, you keep adjusting. You keep finding a way forward no matter what obstacles stand in front of you. Relentless action means you show up on the days when it's hard, when you're tired, when you're doubting yourself, when nobody is cheering you on. Because that's when it counts the most. Anybody can act when it's easy. Few can act when it's difficult. And that's what separates those who break through from those who stay stuck. Understand